Action and Structure of the Heart by Colby Craven, Austin Clokey, Jordan Trammell, and Adam Childers. First we'll show you a video of how the structure of the heart actually works and its processes.
The structure of the heart. The heart is a muscular organ located behind and to the left of the breastbone or sternum and between the lungs. It is shaped like an upside-down pear and is about the size of your fist. Contained within a sac called the pericardium, it sits on top of the diaphragmatic muscle and is surrounded by the rib cage. These structures all serve to protect the heart. The heart is made up of 4 chambers, 2 small chambers called atria and 2 larger chambers called ventricles. The left ventricle is the largest and strongest chamber in the heart. As it is required to pump blood to the rest of the body, it needs to have more muscle than the other chambers. The heart muscle itself is called the myocardium. Coordination of blood flow through the heart is maintained by electrical activity and 4 heart valves. These valves open and close to allow blood to flow in the correct direction only. The 4 heart valves are the tricuspid valve, which controls blood flow between the right atrium and right ventricle. The pulmonary valve, which lies between the right ventricle and pulmonary artery. The pulmonary artery takes deoxygenated blood from the heart to the lungs. The mitral valve, which allows oxygen-rich blood from the lungs to flow between the left atrium and the left ventricle. The aortic valve, which controls blood flow between the left ventricle and the main blood vessel leaving the heart, called the aorta. The rhythmic contraction of the heart is governed by an electrical impulse.
Alright, deoxygenated blood is blood that has been processed and sent through the body. It's ready to be moved back to the heart to be reoxygenated. Deoxygenated blood is blood that moves through the body in veins called the superior vena cava and the inferior vena cava. These veins have smooth muscle tissue that carry blood back to the heart while it is through the inferior and superior vena cava. The smooth muscle tissue is what propels the blood so that it can move back through the heart even while moving upwards in the body. The tissue lines the inside of the veins and works as any other sort of tissue would in any other organ of the body. This is a picture of the heart. The blue area is where deoxygenated blood is. The picture at the top left with the blue pipe and the arrow pointing down is superior vena cava. The one at the bottom left, blue with the arrow pointing up, is the inferior vena cava. Alright. On the left you have oxygenated blood, which has gone through the heart and been processed and is ready to be sent back through the body. And on the right you see what the blood looks like as it comes back through the inferior and superior vena cava and is ready to be reprocessed. Deoxygenated blood appears blue through the skin due to its dark color and the way that the body diffuses light. Some people think that when blood reaches oxygen it becomes red. However, blood is never blue, it just appears that way.
Okay, this is oxygenated blood. At the top is a picture of the heart, the left and right side. The heart's job is to pump blood through the body and lungs. It is very important that the heart receives both oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. The definition of oxygenated blood is blood that has oxygen moving throughout the body. Oxygenated blood only flows through the left side of the heart. The left side of the heart includes the left atrium and left ventricle. And that's a picture of just the left side of the heart. Oxygenated blood goes to the pulmonary veins first. Pulmonary veins are the only place that oxygenated blood travels in the human body. Oxygenated blood flows from the lungs to the left atrium. When the left atrium is receiving the new oxygenated blood, the valves stay closed. As time goes on, the valves eventually open. The oxygenated blood then flow to the left ventricle. The mitral valve prevents the oxygenated blood from flowing back into the lungs. At the top is a picture of a normal heart and of the great arteries. Leaving the left ventricle, the oxygenated blood now flows to the aorta, which is the largest artery in the body. And now here's a video of the function of the heart.
The inferior vena cava. The inferior vena cava. Contraction of the right atrium in each cardiac cycle forces blood into the right ventricle. This is followed by contraction of the right ventricle, which pumps blood into the pulmonary artery, sending it on through the blood vessels. Contraction of the right atrium in each cardiac pressure within the right ventricle rises. The tricuspid valve situated at the opening between the right atrium and right ventricle shuts, preventing any backflow. The pressure generated by contraction of the right ventricle soon opens the pulmonary valve and blood enters the circulation of the lungs. After passing through the circulation of the lungs, the blood, having been recharged with oxygen and having rid itself of carbon dioxide, is returned through the pulmonary veins to the left atrium. The left atrium, too, contracts, forwarding blood into the left ventricle in order to fill it before it contracts. As the powerful left ventricle contracts, the mitral valve shuts, preventing backflow into the left atrium. The aortic valve opens, and blood is forced into the aorta, which distributes it to the rest of the body apart from the lungs. As the contraction comes to an end and pressure in the aorta falls, the aortic valve snaps shut to prevent backflow into the left ventricle.
The right side of the heart includes the right atrium and the right ventricle. This side of the heart is where the deoxygenated blood is received. The deoxygenation blood is pumped into the heart through two veins. The blood is then pumped from the superior vena cava into the right atrium. The blood then empties into the right atrium. The tricuspid valve is the connected valve between the right atrium and the right ventricle. The superior vena cava and inferior vena cava valves transport the deoxygenated blood into the right atrium. The blood is then emptied into the right atrium. Wait, I think it copied again. Right side of the heart includes the right atrium and right ventricle. This side of the heart is where the deoxygenated blood is received. The deoxygenated blood is pumped into the heart through two veins. The blood is then pumped from the superior vena cava into the right atrium. The blood then empties into the right atrium. The tricuspid valve is connected to the valve between the right atrium and the right ventricle. The superior vena cava and inferior vena cava valves transport the deoxygenated blood into the right atrium, also storage area for blood. This model shows how the heart receives poor oxygen, blood, and
The left side of the heart, the left atrium, receives oxygenated blood from the lungs, pumps blood into the left ventricle. The left ventricle receives blood from the left atrium and pumps blood throughout the body. The left atrium is larger than the right atrium, influences heart rate. Blood is oxygenated in the lungs and pumped to the left atrium. Blood is pumped to the left ventricle. This is a picture of the left atrium. Blood comes from the lungs through the mitral valve and then to the ventricle. The left ventricle, largest chamber in the heart, pumps blood throughout the body. Wall is 3 times bigger than the right ventricle. The stronger the contraction of the ventricle, the stronger the blood is pumped. Picture of the left ventricle. This model shows how the blood flows throughout the heart and back into the body.